Hello everyone, it's Maureen again. Just kind of showing you my crafty setup where the magic happens. So this happens to be in my basement. It's a dry basement. It's a full finished basement with no sort of exterior doors. So as you can imagine, when moving in, it's kind of a pain in the tush because you can't bring in big items to the basement. But it's perfect if you're going to use the environment as a space for crafting besides storage. So this is my spare sewing machine that I've been kind of talking about on my blog, which is a 1970s Seam Master, and it's been working really great so far in regards to sewing through thick amounts of linen and things like that. Yeah, I dropped my thread. I'll have to pick that up later. But I always have nearby my ironing supplies as well to keep those seams nice and crisp. But I'm also keeping my books nearby too. So I have some of my doll books here. There's a few over here. All of my patterning kind of books are there. Embroideries down here. And then I have supplies, so scissors and thread and things like that down there. I'd like to eventually get a thread rack that I can kind of hang right there, just to put my threads out. I can always throw a little cover over it if need be, because it's the only challenge with the basement is things get a little dusty, but not too bad. This is my cabbage basket. Reason I'm showing you this is to remind everybody to reduce, reuse, recycle. So this happens to be a basket that my mom gave to my sisters and I for doll clothes, so it has a second life as my cabbage basket. Particularly, I have linen pieces in here. There's a few wool pieces too, and you just never know when you may be needing to reuse a scrap or need a scrap for a patch or something like that. So I try to chop things down to a point where they're not usable anymore. And my cabbage basket makes a great option for stuffing things. If I need to do stuffing or wadding, your cabbage basket can come in very handy for things like that. Like this pillow that's over here is full of old cabbage in different sizes. And because it's stuffed with fabric, it has a nice weight to it. So if I'm sitting on the floor cross-legged and this in my lap, helps keep my posture really nice. And it's very comfy to sew on. It's made out of linen itself. All of my sewing machine parts, extra feet, things like that are in there. More books of awesomeness. Some bits of research for dolls are there besides modern sewing situations. More thread, more embroidery books, other supplies, and then a very nifty ironing board. I always suggest, especially if you're going to be using your iron a lot, and if you're making clothing or garb, you're going to be using your iron a lot, or at least you should, to keep those seams nice and crisp, and especially if you're doing lining. Having a good solid ironing board is a very important investment. This one, a lot of my sewing supplies that I found that have been the most useful tend to be ones that are quite old, or something that I bought at a yard sale, thrift shop, something like that, where they just don't make things like they used to. So most of the time, if I find something that I find useful, 10 to 1, it's something from circa 1970 or earlier. Anywhere between the 40s to the 1970, I tend to find items that are very solidly made and meant to last a while. Like the sewing machine is definitely circa 1970. And it works great. I was able to actually tell my old neighbor about the machine, and I'm able to use it, and that it's been working fantastic. My neighbor's mom had passed, and she knew that, my neighbor knew that I had sewed. Nobody else in the family was going to use it, so it's nice that her mom's machine got a second life. And I mean, that's actually the cool part about reducing, reusing, and recycling, is you also get to have some history about whatever it is that you are buying, so to speak. But also buyer beware, because sometimes things are creepy too. But that doesn't happen very often. So for the most part, the basement's going to be is my happy place of creativity, which works out well. It's nice and cool down here in the summer. Even having air conditioning, you don't have the humidity like you do upstairs, even when it's set at a cooler rate. Yeah, right now I piled up a whole bunch of things over here, like my sewing, well, spinning items, and then sewing items down here. Some of this linen may get a different dye job, so I've been researching my natural dyes to figure out what I want to do with that. There's a little bit more cabbage in here for wool that doesn't fit into my basket over there. And then this is my current middle class outfit. I have about 3 kirtles and 2 other sets of sleeves in the orange tote in the bottom, besides several knee socks that are made out of wool, which would be appropriate. This is more of a gentry linen kirtle with sleeves. And then I have, these are the red sleeves actually I just completed that I was talking about. And this actually is a linen blend ribbon. Like this would be where your wrist is. And this is where you would attach it. This is the arm's eye where you'd attach it to the top of your shoulder. So I've been doing that, and then I'm thinking about getting some hangers and hanging up my items eventually. But past the kitty cat stuff and the furnace and all that good stuff is my other sort of crafting area. Fabric is here, so that's all the fabric there. Dress dummies are there. And then I have my cutting table, which is an old kitchen table, but you use what you have. And in this case, it was going to be sold in a yard sale. I'm like, nope, that's my cutting table. What you're seeing on top of it is a duvet that has ties. So I sort of threw that over on top of the tapestry that was on there to give it a little bit of a snaggable cutting surface, because this is like a cotton canvas. So if it gets snagged, no big deal. And the kitty cats, of course, love it because they can lay down and survey their basement kingdom. That's garb. Some of it wearable, some of it not. So it's not all complete garb. Most of it is completed projects, but there's some that eventually will have to hit the, not necessarily yard sale, but hit eBay. So you may want to keep an eye out for that. Right, Star? Watch for the crazy clothing from Mom, making room in the basement. But this is my most recent project, which, excuse it for hanging up, because Tudor clothing isn't really meant to be on hangers, but it keeps it from getting less wrinkled. This happens to be a tabbed kirtle. I just wanted to play around with the tabs and kind of understand if it may change the way that the clothing hangs, but it's all been hand attached on the inside. And then added some stripes on the bottom for fun. This is definitely a little longer in the back than it is in the front. And I have a regular linen kirtle here, or linen shift. And then I have my next kirtle in the back there, which eventually will have some sort of skirt attached to it. Possibly of a different color, we'll see. Gonna still try to play around with red a little bit, because being that it's my favorite color and it's a very ladies color in the Tudor time frame, certainly want to kind of work with that. But yeah, everything kind of has covers on it right now just to keep dust and dirt off of it, and I continually clean the basement, fighting the good fight with the arachnids, in this case, to keep things organized and clean and spider free. So I know some people are like, ew, spiders. I'm like, well, you do what one must. But in the meantime, it's nice to have a area to work, and one that is pretty much clean and organized, and I have been able to locate pretty much where everything that I need is. I just didn't realize how very low on linen I am, so I'm going to have to work on that. Though I've been doing pretty good on my wool. There's lots of wool right there, so gotta find the fabric when you can. And I've been going through the totes here because a lot of the fabric that I got was not the best for the time frame that I'm doing, and most of it isn't natural material that I want to work with. So a lot of this will eventually be reduced down and replaced with more appropriate materials. It'll take some time, but goals. There's always goals, besides all of my many books and everything. But just to give you an idea, happy, creative little place. The creative dungeon, I guess. I don't know. But if you have any questions or comments, you can leave those, or questions in the comments. You can always email me any questions that you may have. And I think I'm going to be going through some of this. There's some black linen material in there I might make a belt from. So we'll see. Have a great Sunday and keep on sewing. Bye.